Let's get on our feet. Come on. Everybody, get up on your feet. See the light in everybody you meet. Everybody, get up on your feet. See the light in everybody you meet. Let us be reminded of who we've come to be. We are one, we are love, one big family. Hey, 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 yeah. Hey, 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 yeah, yeah. Everybody, get up on your feet. See the light in everybody you meet. Everybody, get up on your feet. See the light in everybody you meet. Let us be reminded of who we've come to be. We are one, we are love, one big family. Hey, hey, yeah, yeah. Hey, 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 yeah, yeah. Let us make a joyful sound. Here we stand on holy ground. Let us make a joyful sound. Here we stand on holy ground. Let us make a joyful sound. Hey, 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 hey. Yeah, yeah. Hey, hey, hey. Yeah, yeah. Let's do it one more time. Everybody, get up on your feet. See the light in everybody you meet. Everybody, get up on your feet. See the light in everybody you meet. Let us be reminded of who we've come to be. We are one, we are love, one big family. Hey, hey, yeah, yeah. Hey, 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 yeah, yeah. Hey, 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 yeah, yeah. Hey, 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 yeah, yeah. One big family. Well, good morning, everybody. My goodness, look at all these beautiful, beautiful people. I can see all of you. Well, half of you, maybe. My name's Heather O'Day. I'm the music director of the Sonoran Desert Center for Spiritual Living here in Amado, Arizona. We hold our celebration services here at the Oasis at the Amado Territory Ranch. And without further ado, I would like to invite our trustee for today, Marianne Akers, to give our announcements today. Give her a hand.
Good morning. I am so happy to see. This is like a party out here today. Holy mackerel, we have all these new people, not new, old faces made new today. I'm just happy to see you. Oh, on behalf of Reverend Donna Maurer and the Board of Trustees, I am privileged to welcome you to the Sonoran Desert Center for Spiritual Living. Whoever you are, and wherever you are on your spiritual path, you are truly welcome here. Here you will be validated, supported, and encouraged to be all that you are meant to be. What a group. Wow. Our vision statement is love in action, every day, in every way. We express this love by learning and living the principles of the science of mind. You'll find our declaration of principles on the back of your program. Please join me now in reading them. I believe there is an infinite intelligence operating throughout the universe. I believe this intelligent power is only good. I believe this intelligence expresses as me. I believe through my conscious use of this power, I create my life as happy, healthy, and complete. And so it is. And so it is. If this is your very first time here, we especially welcome you and thank you for your interest and curiosity. Are there any first-time absolutely crispy new, like a $2 bill, newbies? Crispy new? Oh, Okay, I would like to thank those who are assisting to make this morning possible. That would be Reverend Donna. That would be Ruth from afar. That would be John. That would be Gray. What?
Susan and Bruce.
Susan and Bruce. I'm getting there.
Yeah? Okay.
Getting there. Susan and Bruce. Absolutely. I thought I said that. Gray. Gray, yes. Thank you. Okay, who did I forget? If nobody, hurrah. If somebody, I'm so sorry. You'll tell me later. Thank you. All right, please direct your attention to the announcements in your bulletin. If you're watching online, please visit cslaz.org for our announcements.
I also have a very quick announcement. As far as our YouTube channel, right now we sit at 78 subscribers. I just looked it up on my phone. So if you have your phone with you, before you silence it today to prepare for service, please visit YouTube, the YouTube app, and subscribe to CSLAZ. With your help and the help of maybe one friend, that's all it takes. We will hit over that 100 subscriber mark, and we will receive those perks such as our own special YouTube link that doesn't look like the entire alphabet spelled out, and so much more. So we do appreciate that very, very much. Our media team works very hard to ensure that these resources are available to you, and we would appreciate if you utilize them and share them with your friends and family who may find benefit. So thank you for that. The God in me beholds the God in you. Namaste. The God in me beholds the God in you. Namaste. All is beautiful. All is well. All is beautiful. All is well. The God in me beholds the God in you. Namaste. The God in me beholds the God in you. Namaste. All is beautiful. All is well. All is beautiful. All is well.
Thank you. My name is Ruth Bennett. I'm a practitioner today. Karen King graciously gave up her slot so that I could speak since I'm here for a short period of time. So all the way from Cuenca, Ecuador, Dee and I both bring and send our love to all of you, and we miss you. I'm going to start with the invocation, so if you would get comfortable. I always think it's interesting how people have to adjust in order to get prayed on, but that's okay. And I have to tell you that gratitude is the emotion that I'm feeling right now. To be able to be here with the love and lovingness all around. And as this service unfolds, we know that it is whole and perfect and complete in the mind of God. And as we are all part of that one mind, we know that this unfolds in its wonderfulness. And with this gratitude and with this love, this perfection that unfolds, I invite you to join me to anchor all of these wonderful things by saying, "And so it is." Well, I do get to watch you all online. Now I understand we're going to do two cameras, so part of that will be the audience. Ha ha ha, so I'll get to see you. But in talking about stories, I was involved with a lot of nonprofits and political kinds of things, and ended up going to a couple of conferences put on by a group called Nonprofit Storytelling Conference. And they talk about how human beings are hardwired to respond to stories. For tens of thousands of years before there was any kind of written language, communication, community, knowledge, anything that had to be passed from one generation was done verbally and often in the forms of stories. So when we tell a story, and we are all telling stories, it's a way of cementing that kind of communication, that relationship. I was stuck in the Miami airport overnight and met this lovely physician from Guayaquil, and we just shared stories for hours on end. And finally, after about 4 hours, we were there all night, I finally said, "Well, what's your name?" He said, "It's Al." And he said, "What's your name?" I said, "Ruth." "Ah, Ruth," because there's really not much of a TH in Spanish, so I get called Ruth a lot. So stories are really about the transmission of knowledge. They're for entertainment. Before you had cell phones or Netflix, before there was electricity, people told stories. I remember my grandmother, my grandma, there's a difference in my family, telling stories about when she was a little girl on one of the last wagon trains from Oklahoma or Nebraska territories to Oregon territories. If you think about Aesop's fables, that's a great example of stories that have lasted through probably millennia. The boy who cried wolf, or a dog in a manger. Oh, I remember my mother saying if I wouldn't share something with my brother, "Well, you dog in the manger." And that was a shortcut to the moral of that story, which is you shouldn't keep hold of things and not share them, especially if you can't use them yourself. Probably the downside of storytelling is gossip. And gossip can be a terribly destructive force in a family or in a community. So that's the one downside that I could think of in storytelling. Storytelling can also be about universal truths rather than a specific reality. So again, Aesop's fables, there really aren't talking animals, at least that I've understood. But the truths in the story are still there. Jokes are another way of telling a short story, and generally it reinforces a societal belief, sometimes a stereotype. I mean, I think of those things like, what do you call a bus going off a cliff with 47 lawyers in it? A start. So again, underlining that societal dislike of attorneys, unless you really need one. And sometimes, again, a joke will underline that societal pressure. We probably all remember jokes from our past when there were moron jokes or Polish jokes, or I know my sister-in-law was a blonde, and so anytime I'd hear a blonde joke, I would tell it to her until one day she came back and said, "What's black and blue and red and brown and lies in a gutter?" I said, "What?" She said, "A brunette who's told one too many blonde jokes." So a lot of stories we can tell have certain wisdom in it. In one of my own personal stories, I was probably about 4, so my brother was around 2, and we lived in New York, and we were in Yorktown Heights, the closest little town to where we lived. And we were standing at a corner, and my brother just started crossing the street. And my mother grabbed him and shook him, and she said, "I told you to stay with me. You have to mind me because your life could depend on it." And I don't know if it made an impression on my brother, but boy, it sure made an impression on me. We were not those kinds of kids that got in trouble because we listened to our parents, because I saw what might happen if you didn't listen to your parent. So stories are a way that we can fill our own inner, to tell our own stories to ourselves or to others, to share. They are a way of communicating knowledge. They are a way of teaching. So stories are very important, and I have really loved listening to all of your stories. I will say these last 2 days getting here, don't ask me that story. It's really miserable. So thank you. Namaste. I love you all.
So my chant for you today is very simple. It goes like this, if you'd like to join. Tending our stories, tending our stories, tending our stories of love. That's the whole thing. And we just sing that twice. Tending our stories, tending our stories, tending our stories of love. Tending our stories, tending our stories, tending our stories of love. Let's do it again, and let's tend those stories. Tending our stories, tending our stories, tending our stories of love. Tending our stories, tending our stories, tending our stories of love. I want you to take those very simple words with you this week. As you're thinking of your stories to share with us, know that they are all stories of love, because everything we do is an act of creativity. It is an act of that expression of creative spirit that we are all part of. Tending our stories, tending our stories, tending our stories of love. Tending our stories, tending our stories, tending our stories of love.
Christina Baldwin in Storycatcher, Making Sense of Our Life Through the Power and Practice of Story, writes, "We require story in order to link our lives with each other. Story couples our experiences mind to mind and heart to heart. Story is the electromagnetic conductor that brings us close enough together to make the leap of association and identification, to see that another person is a variation of ourselves. We are in grave danger if we lose our link to our own stories. So I'm so happy that this month that we're all telling our stories, or as many people as we can get to. And last week, I want to say thank you to John Lopez, Susan Clutis, Bob Schaefer, and Don Green as they started us off. And now we have a bit of sharing from Ruth. And then our presenters today that we know of are Jerry Larson, and he's going to begin, and followed by Carol Ann Smith and Fran Sutherland. And if there's time, then we'll ask others to come up and share as well. We'd like to get as many stories in as we can, and we'll do it again next week, because I really think that this is a way that we're bonding in a way that's very different and unusual. So Jerry, where are you, my dear? Okay. So Jerry Larson is our first presenter.
Good morning. I am Jerry Larson, and I have a story to tell. I realized after I volunteered that I had told this story a few years ago, so some of you have heard it. I think it was in the spiritual circle, so you're going to have to hear it again. When I was 13 years old, me and my sister would go up to the Presbyterian church that we lived near and sit and listen to the sermons. I had a problem with that. I wanted to believe in God, but I didn't believe in eternal hell for people who didn't take Jesus as their Savior. Had a hard time with the devil. And so what I did, I prayed. I prayed to God to give me a sign so that I could believe that there was a God. Well, fast forward to 31 years later, I wasn't having a good time in my life at that point. A friend of mine suggested that I read a book called 3 Magic Words. I didn't get the book at first, but he kept pestering me. He said, "You got to read this book, it'll change your life." So I got the book and started reading it. There's 12 chapters in the book. Every chapter at the end has a meditation. And the book says if you read the chapters and do the meditation, and you do this for at least 30 days and spend every day meditating and reading the affirmations, it will change your life. So I did this. And by the way, the second chapter, every chapter he recommends a book to read at the end of the chapter. The second chapter, the book he recommended was Creative Mind by Ernest Holmes. Of course, at that time I knew nothing about the church or Ernest Holmes, so I didn't get the book. But what I'd like to do is read you just one meditation, the first meditation in the book. If I can find it here. I know that I am pure spirit, that I always have been and I always will be. There is inside me a place of confidence and quietness and security where all things are known and understood. This is the universal mind, God, in which I am a part and which responds to me as I ask for it. This universal mind knows the answers to all my problems, and even now the answers are speeding their way to me. I needn't struggle for them. I needn't worry or strive for them. When the time comes, the answers will be there. I give my problems to the great mind of God. I let go of them, confident in the correct answer will return to me when they are needed. Through the great law of attraction, everything in life that I need for my work and the fulfillment will come to me. It is not necessary that I strain about this, only believe, for in the strength of my belief, my faith will make it so. I see the hand of divine intelligence all about me, in the flower, the tree, the brook, the meadow. I know that the intelligence that created all these things is in me and around me, and I can call upon it for my slightest need. I know that my body is a manifestation of pure spirit, and that spirit is perfect, therefore my body is perfect. I enjoy life, for each day brings a constant demonstration of the power and wonder of the universe and myself. I am confident, I am sincere, I am sure. No matter what obstacle or undesirable circumstance cross my path, I refuse to accept it, for it is nothing but illusion. There can be no obstacle or undesirable circumstance to the mind of God, which is in me, around me, and through me, and serves me. That sound like Science of Mind? A little bit. Anyway, I did read the book. I did every day, did the meditations. And afterwards, I think within a couple of weeks, I got up one morning, he was getting ready to meet the day, and I was suddenly transposed into this beautiful, soft, golden light. And this light was emanating love. But I searched for a word to describe the love that I felt, and there was no such word. It was just so unbelievable. It was, again, there was just no way to really explain it, the effect it had on me. And while I was in that light, I was also told something. And when I was told it, I thought, wow, that's something. But it's all so very simple. Problem is, when I got out of the light, I did not remember what I was told. But anyway, as a result of that, my life changed in many ways. I started going, my sister introduced me to religious science in Seattle, and I started going to the church. I opened a business that had for all the time from then on until I retired, a very successful business. And my life changed in many, many ways, and I thank it to this book and religious science. Thank you.
Wow, what color. You don't get it until you stand up here. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to tell you a story that refers to an article, that refers to a song. And this is a true story. When my husband came back from Vietnam, he got a job in Auburn, New York, because one of his colleagues stepped through a dock and broke his back and couldn't practice dentistry anymore. So I ended up teaching in Skaneateles, a small school on the Finger Lakes. And there was an opening for third grade, and so I took that position in third grade. And in this time, as teachers, we still had in teaching all day, but also having lunch duty or recess duty or bus duty at all. And on this particular day, I had lunch duty, and one of the littlest children in my class was John. John was in third grade and he was 7. He was tiny, and he did tiny things, but he had a heart that was so big. He was standing next to the garbage can, our traditional garbage can, and he was holding the edge of it, and he was sobbing uncontrollably, and the can was shaking. And I went over to him and I said, "John, what's wrong?" And he said, You know, it's the picture. I said, what picture? You know the picture. I said, where is the picture? It's home. I said, can you bring me the picture? Can you tell me about it? So the next day, John comes to school with a Time magazine. And in Time magazine, there was an article on the starving Biafran children. There was this little picture, it was this big, of a Biafran child about John's age with a distended stomach. And he's standing over this garbage can and weeping because all of the food that was wasted and would help the Biafran children. I think of Eric's song here right now, Our Thoughts Are Prayers, and we are always praying. And that is what John was doing. He was praying to figure out a way how he could help those children to have the food that we were throwing away. John is 7 years old. I mean, what a quantum leap. And immediately at that time, I realized I had to do something for all of these children who have this huge emotional development that they transcend time and place at such a young age and have no control. And at that time, I started talking to my grade level about how we needed to identify these super sensitive children who felt so helpless. And that was the beginning of my career. I formed a gifted committee. It was just first in the intermediate school, and then it took hold in the middle school as people moved from different jobs, and then the high school, and lastly, the primary school. So we had a committee that functioned for years as a committee. And people fell off the committee because they retired or they died. So I went to the superintendent and I said, listen, we have to do something here. We absolutely have to do something. He said, are you willing to teach it? Well, I don't know how to teach it. He said, you'll figure it out. And I did. I figured it out. I went to Yukon that summer and worked with Dr. Joseph Renzulli and Dr. Anthony Gregoric and others for 3 weeks at something called Comfortute. It wasn't a conference. It was an institute. We had 5 classes a day, and my major was working with Dr. Anthony Gregoric, who taught me about mind styles and how we come into this world perceiving. And we perceive immediately, either concretely or abstractly. And then we spend the rest of our time on this earth trying to make sense of our world. And we do that either sequentially or randomly. So you have all of these combinations of those styles. And I applied that to the children that I was working with. I'm a concrete random, abstract random, and I realized John was that very, very sensitive, predominantly abstract random, abstract sequential, because you're a very deep thinker. And it made such a difference in my life and such a difference in my students that to this day, I have students who have found me on Facebook validating what they learned and what a difference it has made in their life. And I end with, we are perfect in our imperfections. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Fran Sutherland. I'm a painter, an art teacher, and a member of the Sonoran Center for Spiritual Living. And the reason I'm here is because of the woman who just told her story, her significant story. I forgot that I was going to share mine, so I'm a little breathless. When it was first proposed that we share a story, I immediately thought, oh, a storybook. And then I thought, well, what other ways do stories reach our lives? And then I thought, oh, through a movie. And then I thought, finally, through other people's stories. So there are three short, significant parts to my story. One is the book, The Little Engine That Could. How many of you know The Little Engine That Could? Okay, that's my mantra. That's my book. That little engine that could. So, and I share that with my children and my grandchildren. And the second is the movie. Have you seen or heard of the movie The Francis the Talking Mule? How many of you have seen or heard that? Okay, so when I was in 4th grade, Francis the Talking Mule came out, and the children at school taunted me. Say, I'm Francis the Talking Mule. So, you're Francis the Talking Mule. I was like, they'd mimic me. And I went home and announced to my mother at lunch when I walked home from school. I was never going back to school again because I was not going to be Francis the Talking Mule. So my mom said to me, well, this mule, what kinds of things does this mule say? And you should think about that. And she presented the idea that perhaps there were wisdoms in the words of other living beings. She made it more general. And that I should be proud to be such a living being. So I went back to school. I didn't talk very much, and I'm still uncomfortable talking. I was the type of teacher who did demonstrate hands-on, not a lot of talking. And eventually, as you can see, I did learn to talk. I went to college, and I met my friend Carol Ann Smith, who is the reason for so many parts of my story. And the first thing was when I met her and became friends with her, I had been the leader of the freshman orientation, and she was the next class that was coming in, and that's how I met her. And we were both young college students. We both started college at 17. So we became close friends, and she soon learned, I shared with her my childhood, which had been abusive, inappropriate. And as time went on, and we'd meet and not meet, she finally said to me, why don't you ever hug people? Why don't you ever say hello and give them a hug? And I realized that my way of surviving had been to shut down and withdraw. And she opened me up. So I had feelings of another human being who I knew unconditionally loved me. And so when she came here to Green Valley, because her mother's good friend from Woodstock had a house here, so she came with her mother. And Carol Ann's mom and her friend went to a church, and Carol Ann went and looked around Green Valley and bought a house. So then she decided that I should buy a house here. So I'm in New York. She goes to a yard sale, sends me pictures and says, this is the house you should buy. I bought my house unseen and came here. And then she brought me here to be with all of you. Namaste. Thank you.
Good morning, please. About 26 years ago, when I came to a point in my life where my spiritual growth seemed to really accelerate. And when that happens, many things can come of that. And one of them was I wrote some poems. And I haven't since. But there was a period there of a year that I was writing poems. And one of the poems that I feel very close to was how we looked upon the homeless and how I looked upon this poor, wretched-looking guy that was filthy and his clothes were all torn, winding up and down the median of La Brea Boulevard in Los Angeles. And I passed him many, many times. But then when I went past him and I kind of had a thought, well, there's a person I could never be. And so I wrote a poem called Homeless Soul. And it really is directed to this particular man. Who are you behind a mask of oil and mud, with tortured hair encircling open eyes that look at you but do not really see? Who do you want? Money? Love? Where is your dignity? How can you live in such a form? Surely God cannot reside in you. God would reside in a form that was clean and pure, in a robust figure and a beautiful eyes that reflect only truth and compassion. But a voice within me spoke, if you cannot find the face of God in this homeless soul, maybe you will never find him. I am God, the one presence found in both heaven and hell. Do not wait to receive me. Receive me now in this man who weeps in such despair. He will be your companion. Embrace him. Love him. Salute the God in him as to he may do the same for you. For we are all one. Whatever our outward form may be, I am God, and all have a home in me. Thank you.
Sharing, Jerry, Carol Ann, Fran, John. Melinda wants to share next week, so we're going to do this for the whole month, which I absolutely love, because every story that we tell sends us deeper into each other. And I thank you so much for having the courage to get up here. It's not easy sometimes to get up here and talk. So I thank you so very, very much. And we'll continue next week. So if there's anybody else that wants to do a story, come see me, and we'll just see what happens next week. Okay? All right.
By the way, if you've not joined us for a while, or if you're here for the first time today, you see me fiddling around with my phone over there. I'm not texting anybody, I promise. I'm getting ready for the next song. I'm very, very lucky because I get to tell stories for a living. That's what songwriting is storytelling, just in a different form. And I have one, actually that little chant that we did a few minutes ago had some more words that you and I were talking about yesterday. And but I decided quite at the last minute, this is another one of those that showed up in the car this morning here on the way, that they belonged in a whole song of their own. So it has no name. It's just a working title is Blossom and Grow. Let's see how that works, okay? All right. Thank you for bearing with me. Up our hearts, we share from our lives and show that we're so much more than the sum of our parts. These stories we tend connect end to end, like the lines of a garden we hold when we the seeds for another one's dreams. The roots and the stems get watered and help us to grow. Blossom and grow, blossom and grow. Up to the sun, grow, blossom and grow, blossom and grow. Up to the sun. Why, thank you for coming out for your song. The courage to speak, the wisdom to hear, the lessons of ancestors' mistakes and loved ones departed and dear. The modern day fairy tales, more than just talk. They guide us and color the paths that we walk to grow. Blossom and grow, blossom and grow. Up to the sun, grow, blossom and grow, blossom and grow. Up to the sun, grow, blossom and grow, blossom and grow. Up to the sun. Blossom and grow, blossom and grow, blossom and grow. Up to the sun. Thank you. Namaste.
You know, I've watched Heather blossom and grow from the time that she first got here, and it just seems like you just told us your story in that song. So thank you so very much. Okay, it's time for our offering, and those of you who are out there on YouTube, please join us. Go to CSLAZ on YouTube. You're already there, but just push that little button that says donate and help us out here, because we have a beautiful, beautiful message. We have messages from so many people, and we need your help too. So with that, let's all join in the offering affirmation. My gift goes forth to heal, prosper, and bless all that it touches. It is evidence of my conviction that God is the source and substance of my supply. I share generously of my good, knowing that it returns to me, multiplied abundantly, and so it is. And there is a little container for your offering, and also don't forget to fill out that little survey form for our board meeting this coming Wednesday. So let's take a moment to close this portion out in prayer and just simply know that there is one mind. It is the mind of God. It is the mind that we use. And the attributes of this mind are love, truth, beauty, joy, harmony, peace, abundance. And made in the image and likeness, we are all of that. So as we share our stories today and throughout the years that come, we know that we are weaving together this magnificent one story. And it is you and me and the world. I give thanks for all of us who are here today. I give thanks for the love that we share. And I do speak a word for anyone who's experiencing any kind of a challenge, to know that God is right where you are. And so I simply just release these words into that law of mind to do its perfect work as we say together, and so it is. Thank you all so very much. you.